Skywalker Sound is an incredible recording studio, and recently I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to go with the orchestra that I'm in and go record some cool music. So there's this composer called Gustav Mahler, and he lived around 100 years ago. His music was incredible. His symphonies were very difficult, but when you listen to them, every movement of the symphony kind of told a story about Mahler himself and of the human condition. So playing his pieces and listening to his pieces is an incredible experience. Playing this piece throughout the year and being challenged by the piece and overcoming the challenges with the entire orchestra was an incredible experience by itself. But the trip was really something special. So the day of the trip, it's been months of preparation. Every day, we practice at the school. We're in the orchestra room, we're practicing. Over time, it kind of comes together. It's kind of like a sculpture, working on a little marble statue, except it's like over 100 sculptors working on one giant marble statue, and over time it comes together to this one giant beautiful marble statue. That's kind of what it is with the Mahler. So at the end, when we're getting ready for the trip, it's kind of this like moment of anticipation. It's like there's a veil over the statue and none of us have really seen the big picture of it yet. And when we go into the recording studio and do all of the takes that we do for the music, it's like the veil is lifted off the statue and we finally see the final result of all of our collective efforts as an orchestra. That's what I found pretty cool about the entire process of recording the first symphony of Mahler. But on the first day, we had a long bus ride there. We didn't really want to start recording after like 8 hours being on a bus. So we had a free day after we got there, which meant that we could go exploring. But the bus ride itself was pretty beautiful. We saw a lot of new landscapes. We saw some beautiful, clouds, scenery, some nice lighting. I'll have some pictures either here or here, I don't know. I'll add it in post, whatever. But the bus ride was pretty fun. I talked to some of my friends. Me and Hadar watched a movie. Along the way, we had a little rest stop, and my friend Fang, he went to a Wendy's and got a burger. This will prove to be a very bad decision later on. So yeah, we get to San Francisco, we get to the hotel, we unload our luggage, go to our rooms, chillax, we got a little selfie. I'll label the names on there. So Hadar, I've known since 7th grade, and we've been through the orchestra program together since then. When we were first auditioning for high school orchestra, we worked together, we tried to improve each other, and when we were auditioning to this level of the orchestra program, which is what allowed us to actually go on this trip, we also worked together on the excerpts and, helped each other improve. And when I met Fang in my first year of high school in the orchestra program that was like one level lower than this orchestra, we became pretty good friends. We were stand partners, and me, Fang, Hadar, and another one of my friends, Ian, we frequently practiced together to get into Symphony, get into the orchestra that we are in now and be able to get the opportunity to do things like this. So we do have a long backstory. And Kevin Fang I met this year. He was my stand partner for the entire time we played Mahler, and all of them have just been wonderful friends, wonderful people to get to know, wonderful stand partners. So we went off on our adventure in our free time for the night of the first day, and first we went to the Mechanical Museum. We got to see a bunch of little gadgets, gizmos, contraptions. And then after that we went to a building called the Ferry Market Building. That was a pretty cool building. Had a bunch of little stores inside. I don't think I bought anything in there. But on the way there, someone saw us and they were like recording us, and that was kind of weird. I think they thought we were like scoundrels or something. They wanted to make sure we weren't up to no tomfoolery or something. Well, it is what it is. After that, Kevin Fang, as a former local of San Francisco, brought us over to the financial district, and we got to see a bunch of cool buildings, walked around there. Skyline was incredible, the buildings were very cool, very modern, sleek aesthetic, So we went on to a building called Salesforce Tower, and on the top of there, or at least like on one of the high levels, there was a park just suspended in like the sky in the top of the building, and that was really cool. We walked around there, had a good experience. We were there just chilling, and then the Wendy's burger that Fang ate kicked back in. We were gonna go eat some like Japanese food or something. We were planning to do that with Fang and with the whole little group, but unfortunately the Wendy's burger, Fang went back to the hotel to, recover, because we had some grueling, tiring recording coming up the next day. And then Kevin Fang brought me and Hadar to the Cheesecake Factory, and we had a nice dinner. Me and Hadar can't eat pork, but we ordered 2 giant pasta dishes we were gonna share among the 3 of us, and it turned out that one of them had pork and we ate into it without realizing. That wasn't very fun. But overall, the pasta was delicious. It was a nice experience. The Cheesecake Factory was unlike what I expected it to be. Before that day, I had never gone to a Cheesecake Factory. I thought it was some kind of an actual cheesecake factory where they made cheesecakes and sweets and stuff. But turned out it was a very cool restaurant with a bunch of global cuisine. And then we go back to the hotel, and Fang is absolutely suffering from the Wendy's burger. The burger is annihilating him. He wrote a whole poem dedicated to this. I felt really bad for him, but the poem was kind of funny though, I'm not gonna lie. So we had a chaperone come in, visit Fang, see if she could help, all that. But really there was no way to tell whether he would be able to go and record with us at the studio until the next day, when we actually started recording. So yeah, day 2. Recording began on day 2. It was tiring, honestly. I did not expect it to be that tiring. I was like, okay, this is gonna be fine. I'm energized, I'm hyped, I get some good sleep. But no, it was not that easy. It was much more difficult than I expected. The fatigue of repeated takes after repeated takes just started kicking in. I think for each movement we did around 40 to 50 takes. I thought we were only gonna do 2 or 3 and they would stitch it together or something. No, we had to do 40, 50 takes for every movement. But anything to get the perfect final product, right? So day 1, I was literally like a tweaker or something, I don't know. But I was passing out on the stand while we were recording, falling asleep. But thankfully, after the first big block of recording, they had some coffee. So I went into the break room, I got some coffee. And the coffee was super heated. So I chugged some coffee and immediately burned my mouth. But, learned my lesson. The coffee only helped for about an hour, and then I started falling asleep again. Anyways, that's all for the suffering for that day. We did many takes of the piece. So after the whole recording, we went down to the Golden Gate Bridge. Very beautiful. We were there at around sunset. We took a lot of cool photos. And then for our free time, after we went back to the hotel, we went to an escape room that Fang suggested us go to. It was very fun. Broke out of the escape room. It was good. We won the escape room, but I had to go use the restroom in the middle. That was not fun. I came back and I had no idea what was going on. But they got it figured out. They figured out all the clues, all the puzzles. Fang's really good at escape rooms. He says he goes to escape rooms every city that he goes to, which is pretty cool. I also saw him doing escape rooms on Roblox, so he's got a lot of experience. He's very good at it. After the escape room, we went to an In-N-Out. I don't think Fang went, because, his stomach was still acting up after that Wendy's burger. I don't think he fully recovered until, after the trip ended. So this debuff, this affliction, was still, affecting him, unfortunately. So we had In-N-Outs, had a burger. Then we had a little night walk on the coast. I think because of the light pollution, you couldn't really see the stars. It was very peaceful. We didn't really see anybody there, so we were just walking and talking. Kevin Fang was, giving some really good, life advice. Took some pretty cool photos there. R farming, And then after the night walk on the coast, we went to a little spy store, and we saw this Osama bin Laden figurine. A great way to end the night. Alright, day 3, or day 2 of recording. I learned my lesson from the previous day of passing out and, having a hard time at the recording studio. So I drank half a Celsius and 4 cups of coffee. And then I continued to fall asleep at my stand, which was pretty sad. 300 mg of caffeine, if I remember correctly. I got all the negative side effects. I got the heart palpitations, I got the heart squeezing, I felt like I was about to have a heart attack, but I still fell asleep at the stand while playing the music. The last take we did of the Mahler was incredible. We did, I think, a full run through of the final movement of the first symphony, of the piece that we were playing. and it was epic. It was like a 20-minute marathon off the last movement, and it felt like the sculpture that we were building collectively had finally come together. But it was very tiring, and I can't imagine how tired that the wind players and the brass players, especially like the French horns, must have been, because when you're playing a string instrument like I was, you're just, dragging the bow on the string, pressing the fingerboard, pressing the strings, making some sounds. You're not actually putting like breath into it. You're not destroying your vocal cords to make some beautiful sounds come out of your instruments. But the winds and the brasses, they are like they have to maintain perfect like embouchure, like the perfect like mouth position, and like put in a lot of air, put in a lot of effort. So by the end of, I think, day 2, some of the brass players were like literally using ice to try and like soothe their vocal cords or something to keep going, which I think is pretty crazy. Just shows the amount of endurance that these incredibly talented musicians are, that I had the chance to play in the same orchestra with. So day 3 shenanigans. We went to Little Italy, just passed by because we didn't really have much time. Our recording session, I think, ended a little bit late that day. Then as an orchestra, we had a group dinner. We went to a little restaurant, had some nice food. Our room hatched a little plan to explore the city one last time before we came back to SoCal. The plan didn't actually end up working as well as we hoped, but we did go up to Coit Tower by foot. We hiked all the way there, hiked uphill. It was a pretty grueling experience. It was like being on the Stairmaster again. Not a fun experience. But once we reached the top, we got some cool photos. We saw the cool tower. It's a tower. That's what I can take from that experience. We saw a tower, and we also saw a drunk person that was publicly intoxicated and with a large bottle of alcohol. Fang still had some of the issues with the Wendy's burger, and climbing all the way up there was a very large challenge for him. Thankfully, we were able to get to the top of the tower. We made it. And then we made it back to the hotel and got ready for the day that we came back. But on day 4, on the last day of the trip, that wasn't really the end yet. We had a little block of free time, so we went to the Golden Gate part and the little Japanese botanical garden inside the Golden Gate part, and it was pretty cool. We saw a lot of animals. I saw a bunch of squirrels. We grouped up with another group to go there and saw the beautiful nature and the gardens. It's a botanical garden. We saw some cool plants. I think that's the point. So that basically concludes our experience at Skywalker Sound. It was an incredibly fun, incredibly satisfying journey. Even though the recordings were tiring, the art that we made along the way was all worth it. But it's not released yet. The music guys are still working on it in the studio. They're still like mixing it. They're still splicing the recordings and the takes that we had to put a great final product together. But I promise I will keep you all updated on the final product so that you guys can listen to our little recording of Mahler 1. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next adventure.